Pittsburgh Steelers coming out on top. I don't think that this was a result that a lot of people were expecting, right? When you kind of, tongue-in-cheek said, oh, everything went according to plan. It never does in week one. I think this is probably one of those results. Of course, that's not to insult Steelers fans or the Steelers team at all whatsoever. It's a good football team, always has been under Mike Tomlin. But to go into Atlanta, the team that was the talk of the town all offseason, and to beat them without scoring a touchdown, very interesting. Dalton, give me your stat that told the story here with this one. How did we get to this result?
Well, they beat them in the most Steelers way possible, like they've been doing since the beginning of time, since the days of Mean Joe Green, right, and all the way through the 2000s with James Harrison and those guys. But a 90.6 team pass rush grade, which for one guy is amazing. For an entire team, it's just dominant stuff. And it's exactly how the Steelers want to win games. Pressured Kirk Cousins over 39% of the time.
Yeah.
A 57.1% pass rush win rate as a team. They were winning in the pass rush more often than they were losing. 5 players with multiple pressures, 3 sacks on Kirk Cousins. This is how the Steelers win football games. As long as TJ Watt is healthy, their front seven dominates games, and then the offense supports it, run the ball. Justin Fields played well instead of Russell Wilson, or really it's his team for the moment since he started week one, but this is how they win games. This is how they've always won games, right? We've seen this the last couple of years. Ever since Ben Roethlisberger left, they win with their front seven. They win with a dominant pass rush. They win in the trenches, and they get just enough from their offense. And you mentioned 6 field goals and no touchdowns. They do just enough. When you only give up 10 points, you don't have to do a whole lot. And when you're rushing the passer the way that they did and dominating an offensive line that was the 3rd best by overall grade in football last year,
yeah.
An elite offensive line that they went in, especially on that right side of the offensive line, that they tore it to shreds. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, everybody in that front seven played well, especially on the defensive line. They were just dominant. They got to Kirk Cousins all day, and they disrupted everything the Falcons wanted to do on offense.
No, I think that you're totally right. And, when we talked about the Falcons as one of the best offensive lines in football going into this season, their run blocking was a big reason why, especially last year, right? Very high run blocking grades across the board. Chris Lindstrom was once again the best run blocking offensive lineman in the game. And I think that some people said, okay, well, they're not as good in pass protection. And holy cow, we knew the Steelers' defensive line was going to be good. It obviously always is, spearheaded by TJ Watt, but Cam Hayward obviously still playing very well at an older age. You got Keanu Benton coming along, obviously Alex Highsmith, and so they were really just able to get after him, even more so than I think some people who might have had concerns about Atlanta's pass blocking group. Steelers just magnified that weakness entirely. I kind of want to stay with that matchup for my stat that told the story here. Kirk Cousins got to still be hurt, right? Not hurt as in, I think that he still has a torn Achilles, but very clearly they were protecting him in week one, because this is somebody who, on 33 dropbacks yesterday, Kirk Cousins, 0 play action plays and only 1 play from under center, and it was a spike in the 4th quarter. So obviously that doesn't really count. You look at what Kirk Cousins has been great at throughout his entire career. It's been that. It's been specifically a lot of play action under center, and they felt really uncomfortable, whether it was offensive coordinator Zach Robinson or Kirk Cousins himself. They were not comfortable doing that. I mean, last year's, you can't really use last year's numbers because Kirk got hurt, so it's not like a full sample size. But if you go back to 2022, Kirk Cousins in the Minnesota Vikings, they had the 3rd most play action attempts of any team. And if you go back a year before, it was a little bit less. I think it was right around the middle of the pack. But they had one of the highest passing grades with play action. So you think that this is a formula for Cousins and something that people talked about with him going into the year. They clearly were not ready to do it in week one.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And you would think they would need that play action game. When you're a team based around a run blocking offensive line and Bijan Robinson, that's the wheelhouse, right? And that's where Arthur Smith tried to get this team to in the last couple of years. And now Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson, you would think this offense would be based around Bijan Robinson and play action, work Cousins in there. And I know, like you said, maybe he's not moving as well, but you could still go, I would think, with some straight drop play action, or even something in the shotgun or the pistol where he doesn't have to move a whole lot. But if you can't go away from it at all, it's very rare that you're going to win a game with no play action passes, because teams just have the easy 2-way go, right? Just either pin their ears back when they know we're passing, or just come up when it's running. Play action is really the middle ground between controlling safeties and controlling what defenses do.
So week one for everybody. I totally forgot at the top to even list the top fives. You should have flagged me down.
Do you want something funny about that? Our first grade release show on the college game, our first game, we did that. We did the same exact thing.
You just forgot to get to it?
We did. We got to through the Clemson-Georgia game, and we did the same. So it's just live TV. When you're breaking in new stuff, then you figure out the order. We did the same exact thing on the college show. I'll put that one on me because I've been through it before. But we got to it sooner. We didn't get through the whole game before. So
yeah, so
we sped
okay.
it up a little.
This will be a decent transition to us. Top 5 players that we've got here for both of these teams. For Atlanta, it was actually on the defensive side of the football. Their top player, Nate Landman, their linebacker, 88.3 overall grade. Bijan Robinson, fantasy football owners rejoice. He had the second highest grade at an 87.0. You see a couple of defenders there, Troy Anderson as well, Justin Simmons, Ray McLeod kind of rounds it out with the top 5 overall graded players. Now, we'll repeat this a couple of times just so you guys can get familiar with it, but the way that we do this is we'll take these from Premium Stats. You can go see those if you have a PFF subscription, so you can go and see those as well if you want to a little before the show. But we filter it out for guys who played at least 25 snaps. So, players who played 8 snaps, 6 snaps, something like that. The smaller sample size can sometimes skew a PFF grade if you're really not playing a full game. So what you will see on the screen, these will be the highest graded players who played at least 25 snaps. We feel like that's a good way to judge and to shout out the players that really contributed to the game to the most. And you see that we'll always mention quarterback for all of these teams, whether they made the top 5 or not. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. Here, Kirk Cousins did not make the top 5, not at all. He was a bottom 5 player for the Atlanta Falcons, 42.1. Just the numbers were not good for him in any way, shape, or form. If you want to flip over to the Pittsburgh side of things, a lot of defensive players at the very top, as you mentioned. TJ Watt, 95.3. A very good game for TJ Watt that we had this past game. And I mentioned Cam Hayward playing at a very high level as well. Deshaun Elliott getting himself an interception. 2 guys on the offensive line who the Steelers have needed their offensive line to play better. James Daniels, Dan Moore Jr. playing well, grades in the mid-70s. And then Justin Fields, was he asked to do a lot? No. It was a lot of rollout stuff. It was a lot of half-field read stuff. But hey, PFF grades, we're judging sort of what you are asked to do here. Are you operating the offense the way that you are supposed to? And you know what? Fields had a pretty good day doing that.
He did, and honestly, that's my most impressive player. And for a guy who probably didn't know until maybe Thursday that he was starting, still waiting on Russell Wilson's calf injury and see where that's at, I thought he was really good. A 79 overall grade, a 77.4 passing grade, 3 big-time throws. And I think the only thing to clean up was just some accuracy things, especially on the shorter throws, ball placement, not the most consistent, but he did enough. And you know what he didn't do? He didn't put the ball in danger. He didn't force balls down the field. You didn't see him try to extend plays too much. If he made a decision to scramble, he was going to scramble. If he made a decision to throw, he was going to throw. But he did exactly, he understood the assignment. Mm-hmm. Just go in there, let my defense win the game. Let the running game win the game. Make the throws that I need to make for the most part, and that's enough for this Steeler team to win. Because honestly, that's what they didn't get enough of last year, the last couple years, with Kenny Pickett, with Mason Rudolph, with Mitch Trubisky, with whoever was playing. There was too often where it was just, look, we don't need to score 40. We're not a team that scores 40 points. We don't need you to go. And 3 big-time throws is really, really impressive stuff considering I think he only had 21 or so pass attempts, somewhere in the low 20s. It's not like it's high volume either. So he's capable. He's always been capable of making big throws. Mm-hmm. He made 3 of them. I believe 1 was incomplete or called back on an offensive pass interference that was shaky at best. But no, he did a really good job managing the game. And I know the game manager thing is often used as an insult, but in this case and for this Steeler team, it's exactly what they need. If Fields continues to play like this, he's got a shot to continue to be the starter.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you there. It feels as though it wasn't exactly the open competition that it was billed to be in Pittsburgh. It felt like, it was probably Russell Wilson's to start the season all along, but obviously he doesn't start in this one because of injury. So Fields kind of opening the door here with how he played, getting the dub down in Atlanta. My most impressive, it has to be TJ Watt. We saw their highest PFF grade, and for a reason, right? He got a sack in this game. He had 2 more sacks that didn't count just because they were no plays. They ended up being called off because of penalties, but he had 2 more sacks there, so I wanted to make sure I shouted those out. But 3 pressures in this game, 17.4% pass rush win percentage. That's sort of more towards the TJ Watt that we know he is capable of, because it feels like the win percentage has been down a little bit over the last couple of years, even though the sacks have been up. That's a trend in the right direction, so you love to see it from TJ Watt. And then the most disappointing, you kind of highlighted it in what you were talking about, the Falcons offensive line for me. Drew Dahlman, Matthew Bergeron, Caleb McGarry, all of them pass blocking grades below 40. I mean, that's not even like average. We need the floor to be better for the Falcons pass rush group, but they were the most disappointing to me. Who is your most disappointing? Then we'll move on to the next.
I'm going to go on the other side of the trenches for the Falcons here, and we talked in the preseason about their pass rush needing to improve, hoping the Matt Judon trade would help them, hoping some guys would break out, and this was not the game. This was not the game that they did that. A 56.7 team pass rush grade. For as much pass rush as the Steelers got, the Falcons didn't get any, and the ageless Grady Jarrett was the only player that they had with multiple pressures on their team. So they really need somebody else to step up, especially off the edge, to get a pass rusher. They're going to find themselves in more spots like this.
Somebody in the chat said, is Desmond Ridder owed an apology yet? All right, probably not.
Probably not.
Yikes. Look, we talked about the Falcons passing group last year with Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. 49.4 season grade. Kirk Cousins' first grade, lower than that. I'm just saying. Look. They made the right decision trying to upgrade.
It's a work in progress.
It is interesting to point out.
New coaching staff, new quarterback. Sometimes it does take time.
It does take a little bit of time. I think that's something that we're going to repeat throughout this show.
Patience is really something.
Not a lot of
in
it
the football world. There's not a ton of it. Not a ton of patience.
You only get 17 regular season games, so I do kind of get it.